I went to the motorway control, and the controller there had a telex from Hull to say that at some stage during the day there would be this human organ, liver, would be brought down and it had to be transferred to the Cromwell Hospital in London. The car actually went through onto the runway, and as soon as the plane stopped, it was literally transferred out of the plane, straight into the police car, straight out of the airport, down the M11. We went up to Junction 7 and waited for Essex to convey the package to us.
While we were waiting there, of course, you are on edge, as it's so to speak, knowing the journey that you've got ahead of you. The time of day, it was a Friday, it was lunchtime on a Friday, and you have to travel through the East End, Central London and the West End to reach a destination. So the traffic obviously is quite horrendous.
842, go ahead.
The reason we were told there was no helicopter available is because it was defective, and at that time I think we were only running one helicopter. So it was purely left to road transport.
Eventually we were told that the other police car was on its way, and then it was very much a case of all systems go.
I didn't realise at the time, but we were told that human organs can only last so long outside a human body. And in the case of this liver, it was quite clearly pointed out that did we not go to the hospital by 12:30, then we might as well abort the run. In fact, we would have been directed to have aborted it because it would have been useless after that time.
Up to a few years ago, there was a considerable limitation on the time that you had with respect to an organ maintaining its viability. There was only a period of about 5 hours from the start of cold perfusion until when the vessels had to be connected up in the patient having the transplant and blood allowed to flow through the liver. After 5 hours of perfusion with the older solution, the liver becomes damaged irretrievably and won't sustain function if it was transplanted.
Once we'd left the motorway, travelling at quite high speeds, once, but I think we were up to about 120 miles an hour there.
I knew what the route was. I knew that we had about 30 minutes. And having had a look at the map, it looked roughly about 30 miles in 30 minutes, which is obviously 60 miles an hour, which on the motorway sounds quite good, but of course through central London, it was going to be a little bit tight.
Going through urban areas into really crowded shopping centres and so on, we relied heavily on our colleagues to see us through the traffic light junctions.
Virtually every junction we started to go through, there was a police officer there. And it was very soon after we had the Central Command Control Complex put into operation. And I must say it reflects well onto the other officers who took part in this. And if you look at the video, I think there's something like about 52 police officers took part in it, manning the junctions, other cars helping us, motorcyclists.
Once the liver is removed, it's then kept in a special box, which is again cooled so that there's no flow through it, but it has the preservation solution in it and its temperature is kept low.
I think we were all a little bit on a short fuse, to be quite honest, because we realised somebody's life was at stake. Had we not got there with the organ, the person was more than likely going to die.
You have somebody waiting on a life-giving transplant, so to speak. You're responsible for taking it there. The minutes are ticking away. You don't want to cause an accident. At the same time, you want to get there as quickly as possible, but of course as safely as possible, bearing in mind what you're carrying in your vehicle.
The first part of the journey was no problem because I knew the route. and I could associate the time with the distance and the general geography of the land. But once I got through Trafalgar Square, I'm a little bit lost over West London, and I genuinely there thought we're never going to make it. And the seconds ticked away and the miles didn't seem to come up fast enough. In all my service, I've never ever experienced a run against the clock. Yes, I've had emergency calls, I've had fast runs, but I've never ever had a run against the clock. It was the first one and the last one.
From 126. 126, go ahead. Yeah, a unit came up and suggested that we take South Carriage Drive when we get up to Hyde Park there. Can they make any further suggestion as to which gate to exit from? Stand by, I'll get the message channel.
Let me get on the M25 going to Luton.
He got stopped by a motorist there who'd actually got himself lost, which is quite unbelievable in the middle of what was going to be quite an emergency run. We had this person here asking for directions, which just seemed quite ironical, really. He had no idea why we were sitting there or what was going to take place. Now, Bill goes off, obviously, because he's going to do the transfer into his car, and the idea was that I was then going to hold back and hold the traffic up.
Can I call one of my units, please? Go ahead, over. 724, 724, Steve, I'm on air, one of them. Good. Yeah, you're on southbound, just north to
The Essex car comes up behind a tanker. There's the tanker. And you'll suddenly see the Essex car appear, look. Graham gets out, goes to the rear offside. I think he was a little bit taken back by the size of this, because they said he's a big lad, but that is heavy. Transfer taking place. Unbeknown to us, of course, the lid was going to become loose during the journey.
We have other police units in central London waiting for us to assist us on our journey.
As soon as we got onto the motorway, we encountered roadworks, and as you'll see from the video, a lorry blocked our passage straight away, which was a little bit frustrating. But once we'd cleared the roadworks, we had a free run down, I think topping around about 118 miles an hour. I saw Graham put the cool box into the back of the car, and away we went, and I didn't give it another thought. But when we got to our destination, what we didn't know was that in fact Graham had to lean over into the back to hold the lid on, because it was packed in ice, and it was either a poor fit or the lid kept popping off. So during the entire journey, Graham was leaning into the back, holding the lid down on this box, and also trying to give a commentary for other vehicles and other police officers to our location.
Passing underneath the M25 motorway at junction 6 on the M11. Having just 30 minutes to get to the hospital.
The cars we were using at the time were Rover 3.5 SDIs. A good strong car, reliable. Although at this stage the mileage was exceptionally high on the patrol cars. Mine was on about 82,000 and I think the car Bill was driving was on about 86,000. They're okay once you get the speed up. They're not particularly fast on acceleration, but they were a good motorway car.
We're about 45, 50 seconds from Redbridge roundabout.
I said earlier, we'd worked out that we'd have to average about 60 miles an hour to achieve our goal. And on the motorway, we were absolutely flat out. I think about 119 miles an hour we were achieving.
Could you give us a commentary on the main junction they come to?
They're coming to Redbridge roundabout now. 126, we've got a number of units in position, so we can give us where you are now.
Yeah, thank you very much. 1 minute 10 seconds from Redbridge roundabout.
Received. All received. Redbridge roundabout received.
You know, Bill.
Level 4, go ahead.
They're really sensible. Can you tell us, when they come out of South Coast Road through Prince of Wales onto Knightsbridge, can you tell us whether they're using Exhibition Road or Queensgate down onto the Brompton Road? Exhibition Road is easiest.
Receive that out, level 4.
Negative. Cool. Yes.
No responsive, was it?
Georgia 1 station.
Received. Alpha level 4 is in Exhibition Road, brother.
Yeah, we'll see if they can ever get it.
Is a one still at the moment.
Thank you.
Now we're going through the George and straight into heavy traffic. And you can see the speed down here. Look, we're down to 2 miles an hour. It really was frustrating. And I looked in the mirror and there was this Audi in behind us, and as we were fighting our way through the traffic, so he came in behind us, and he's still with us. And I couldn't believe it, and of course I couldn't do anything about it. But you can see where we now come up to Blake Hall Road, the traffic lights are just changing. There's the police officer standing there. They change because we go sailing through, and he got caught, and quite right too. There's a little bit of a liberty, that was. We're now coming up to the Green Man roundabout, and there's another patrol car there where the crew have got out and stopping all the traffic. And in an attempt to help us even more, when they realised we were getting through here, they actually drive through ahead of us down High Road, Leytonstone. I think he left his operator standing at the junction. And when we go down this narrow section of effectively the A11, you can just see him going down the offside in an attempt to get to Church Lane. But this was very fast down here. I know some people will look and say, well, it's only 50 odd miles an hour, but that is fast for the conditions. As I said, if any pedestrians had walked out of there, I'm afraid they'd have been collected. Successfully through. That's probably going to be one of the worst parts that we were going to encounter. It's always congested through there. And once again, there is no room for these large vehicles to get out of our way. I mean, he's desperately trying to get out of the way. It's a Friday and there's all the traffic coming out of London. They just want to get away for the weekend. Pedestrian crossings, you can see how we swung right over to the near side to get maximum vision. You never know when someone's going to run out from between effectively parked vehicles. There's another crossing down here somewhere. Yeah, another one, and you can see with the stationary vehicles, you never know when someone's going to walk out or run out. Just going past Leytonstone Police Station. And then it's just beyond here where you'll see I go to the offside of the road. Another one lets you know there's two about. No great speed, look, 40 odd miles an hour. Okay, you see there's nothing coming towards us here, and that's where I just consider that to be the line to take. 60 odd miles an hour. Yes, that's quite fast for down this road. Another set of traffic lights just around the corner, and that's covered by police. Straight through on the red again. Once again, straight over to the offside again. In some ways, you can see from my position, I'm using Bill as a shield. But you can see that I've got to keep close to him, just in case some people say, oh, there goes the police car, can afford to pull out or do a right turn. And then obviously being confronted with a second vehicle. I didn't want to give them the opportunity to be able to do any other manoeuvres. This is now coming up to Maryland Point, and I guess straight away that we'd be going to the wrong side there. Again, police officers standing there. I think if people see this, they get a different perspective of traffic officers. It's not just sort of booking motorists all the time or chasing motorists. We do have varied duties. Coming into Stratford now, and that's where one of the solo riders, police motorcyclists, is there, and he pilots us all the way through. It's not him, there's another one round the corner. An entire journey, having come into High Road Leytonstone, is all in a 30 limit. So it'll give you some idea of the speed in these types of area. This is now a dual carriageway, basically 3 lanes I think in most places, and an opportunity to try and make up a little bit of lost time. Police officer at Carpenter's Road coming up. I think it was just as we came over Bow Flyover, there was a comment made in the car, I think Steve made it, about the brakes smelling. And the reason was I had to stay so close to Bill so that no other vehicle would come between us. The path having been made clear for Bill and Graham, I had to use that clearance myself. I couldn't afford for anybody to relax or vehicles to change course or police officers manning the junction to relax. They cleared the traffic basically for one car, and we ran the route like a stretched vehicle.
Don't turn your wheel, mate.
Did he hear that, do you think? Don't try and take the wrong side or something.
Is that for Debt Road? Definitely green receipt.
You give him a rest, Steve. If you can. I mean, if you said it.
Okay.
You just have to think they might blow. What was that?
lead on one lane. I'm going to collect the choice now.
He continued and got towards Gardener's Corner, and traffic was a little bit heavy, and I think Bill went to the offside, and he thought that this car was going to get out of his way, and in fact it didn't. So in other words, he was bolt. I went down the near side and then let him re-overtake me because it was of no interest for me to be in front of him.
Lennon Street, Steve. Someone brought this the A102 exit after you, sir.
City coppers, aren't they, with bugles?
248, Steve. 2037, Ted.
Their bugles are better than ours, aren't they? When we cleared Gardener's Corner, you can hear on the video that there are two-tone horns, and they in fact were City of London solos, motorcyclists, who took up the escort, made a clear path for us, which was very, very much appreciated.
By the old Ford slip-off, driver. Steve. Well, I didn't get that one. Steve.
Are we on or not?
Sorry?
Are we on or blown? Bugles.
No, no.
We've got something left, have we? Approaching Blackfriars, going through the tunnel, and you'll see the camera will adjust accordingly for the different light. Again, we're making good ground, 60, 70 miles an hour. This is all a good plus sign, about 12, 13 minutes to go. I inwardly thought we weren't going to make it, purely because I couldn't associate the distance we had to travel with the time. I couldn't relate to the two. I was all right over the east side of London, but over the west side, it was just a case of just following the car in front. I just resigned to the fact that I thought possibly we weren't going to make it.
Yes, sir. Contacted the hospital. I've given them an ETA of 10 minutes. Over. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, please. Bit of noise. once again, coming up to Trafalgar Square, you can see all the pedestrians about. It's dinner time, traffic lights at red. Everything's basically against us. Into the Mall, and then normally you can get your foot down here. Traffic flow isn't normally too heavy. And then of course along the Mall you're going to get tourists. Some people actually run to the side of the road when they hear sirens and watch. You now see the City of London motorcyclist going to stop. See him going out. You can see the smoke coming from the rear of his bike. That's the end of one motorbike. Now to the right of the wedding cake. It took me a little bit by surprise. Acknowledgement to the police officer there. Into Constitution Hill, and again an opportunity to get your foot down, make up a little bit of time. Next congestion point is obviously going to be Hyde Park. The only time I've ever known that to be empty is about 3 o'clock in the morning. I've been warned by Steve that we could go through here, and sure enough, away we go. Redirected, coming out the other side, instead of Knightsbridge. We're now going straight through into South Carriage Road because of congestion. That, at the end of the day, was probably the saving grace in this run. Had we done a left, we certainly wouldn't have made it.
Going out this gate, I think, maybe. Yeah, down this gate. Doing a right turn here.
See, there's a set of traffic lights, they're obviously red for us, and a foreign lady driver came out and did a right turn, which I don't think pleased Will. Wrong side of the road, again an attempt to make up lost time. We're now down to 5 minutes, just over 5 minutes, and I still wasn't aware as to how close the hospital was. And now utter frustration. Down to 1 mile an hour with nowhere to go. The curb's too high to go on. And people doing their best, taxi driver that waving us through. Now we're going to do a right turn alongside this traffic. There is in fact a police officer there, you may just glimpse. And as soon as we do the right turn, the entrance is on the right. Only to find that that's been blocked by some inconsiderate person who couldn't understand what the words "keep clear" meant on the road surface. You can just see the "keep clear" as we turn in. Well, there's actually a porter waiting at the entrance to the hospital just there. Out gets Graham. Bill opens the door for him. Out with the box. In fact, I think I'd got out of the car here now. Graham goes away, and then you've got Bill just collapsing on there, and I think I just give him a pat on the back, actually. I thought you did exceptionally well. The one thing we did ask was that could they let us know the result of the operation, and they told us then that it would be at least 72 hours before they would be able to be in a position to say whether it was successful or not.
After an operation done in the non-emergency state, that is the patient, reasonable clinical condition, then recovery is pretty rapid. They can be sitting out of bed on the second or third day and can be discharged from hospital in the second week, 10 to 14 days.
When I came into work on the Monday, there was an entry in our parade book up at the motorway from the surgeon at Cromwell Hospital to say that it was a successful operation. Had it not been, I don't suppose anybody would ever have seen this video.
When we were told of the success of the operation, yes, I must admit to a sense of relief and thinking, well, that's one job well done. And really, it was more or less a case of, yes, it had to be done, and with all possible haste, but you do get a certain amount of satisfaction from knowing that you had a part in it, and even though it was a little bit hairy.
The liver is a vital organ for the body's function. It is a chemical factory. It's the largest organ in the body. It's like the size of a football, weighs between 1 and 1.5 kilogram. It converts substances from the food that are needed for the functioning of tissue cells. It also excretes substances from the body which are taken in inadvertently. If you are carrying out a transplant surgically in a patient, you can't put in a big liver into a small space and vice versa. So that means, again, that one needs to have a surplus of donor organs if one of the right size is going to be available for a particular patient. There is no artificial liver to keep patients alive and in good condition until transplantation can be performed. That is when their own liver fails. This is unlike the situation with kidney transplants, where there is an artificial kidney which patients can remain on for months or even years until a suitable organ becomes available for them.
In 1987, when the liver run took place, this was the only video car in the Metropolitan Police, and certainly I understand it to be the only marked car in the UK which had video facilities. This is the in-car video systems which is used by the Metropolitan Police. It's commonly known as the Provida in-car video system. It consists of the camera, which has various functions on the side. And then on the monitor, you can see that we have the date at the top left, time top right, and this will be the speed of the patrol car, and PP is police pilot. Right, this is the police pilot average speed detection device. It's used in all traffic cars in the Metropolitan Police, And it basically works on the principle of average speed equals distance divided by time. The controls for the camera all run off the remote, which is suitably placed here. You have your record button, the stop, play, fast rewind, fast forward, pause, reset, the memory facility, and then the camera controls for zooming out and zooming in. So everything is used from the remote control. The system that you see here in this car is now the updated version of the original one that was used in 1987 when the liver run took place. Basically it had the same parts, the camera, the monitor and the VCR, and now it's obviously much more refined insofar as that you've got the frame counter number, the zoom control. On the latest generation Provida systems we have the front-facing camera, and we also have a rear-facing camera which can be selected by the operator by just pressing a switch.
What do you mean?
The reason for the rear view monitor is so that when you stop a person, a motorist, who's allegedly committed an offence, we can invite him back into the patrol car, sit him in the back, and he can then see the relevant part of the tape.
The number of transplants done in each year has increased progressively. We're now up to about 650 a year. The total number of donor organs is about 800, so we're getting near the limit of transplantation with respect to available organs.
Again, it was an important sort of milestone, if you like, something which I can view in the future and say, well, I did that. Perhaps I've saved someone's life. And that's really the most that you get out of it, the satisfaction. Although it's probably happened before, it's happened since. I think the main thing is that that is a record of something I was actually involved in, whereby someone or someone's life was saved.
I've been driving police cars since 1969. I've been involved in pursuits, ambulance escorts and emergency runs, but I've never ever had to run against the clock. This is the one and only time that it happened, and it's very rewarding to now look back on to think that it was successful.
The National Organ Registry has been set up to record the wishes of people in life with respect to whether or not their organs are used after death for transplantation to others. If that information is available, then the relatives can be guided in giving permission for the organs to be used so that other people's lives can be saved.
The recipient was a young Israeli woman who I believe now is living in Israel. And from what I hear, she's doing very well. So yes, it's nice to look back on and say, yes, we played a part in her survival. But the other thing we mustn't forget is there had to be a donor. Somebody had to die for it. And that's the downside of it.